Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning. Welcome to a Steam sale recommendations thing. Now, look, we cover a lot of Tactics Ogre and Tactics Ogre accessories over here on this channel, so obviously we're going to start off with Tactics Ogre Reborn, but there's actually quite a few unusual things in the sale that I wanted to go and cover. It's actually kind of the main reason that I wanted to even do this recommendations thing, considering that when you are covering strategy RPG type of stuff, a lot of those lists have a tendency to be fairly samey. Anyway, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this thing. So, if you are unfamiliar with Tactics Ogre, basic general gist here is that it's effectively like, imagine if Speed Chess had an adaptive story. Like kind of a Game of Thrones type of thing, with a very, very well-written story that will go and adapt depending on who lived, died, who knows what information, who feels like what about whom, kind of etc. It's a very unique experience. It's honestly, it's kind of hard to describe accurately, even after, over a decade of going and covering this thing, because it is a very, like I said, unique experience here. So, give it a bit of a try. One of those funny things about it is over here with the reviews, as far as the recent mixed and mostly positive in the long term. What's the deal there? Well, effectively, most of the time when somebody goes and experiences this for the first time, they have a tendency to get overwhelmed. So usually folks will look at it, it's like, oh, it's just a simple little, people on a chessboard kind of situation. How complicated could it be? And then they're like, oh, wait, hold on. I can't do things my normal way. It expects me to actually play its way. I should be able to go grind past all my problems. I should be able to just go and faceplant everything. What do you mean it has an actual challenge to it? I shouldn't be forced to actually try in a strategy game. What? So yeah, there's a lot of that. Anyway, point is, in most situations, they end up going back and dropping a happy little positive after a little bit. Thing we call the Tactics Ogre loop. Effectively, somebody gets burnt out. They come back after wondering, hey, that actually kind of seemed kind of neat, and then they circle back to it, and then, oh yeah, positive time. Anyway, carrying on from this, I should mention about this. So for those that have not picked it up before, I would recommend springing for the premium edition over here, mostly because the soundtrack for this thing is absolutely stellar, and it's a $3 difference. The weird part about this is that there's no option to buy it separately, and that genuinely annoys me. So yeah, I've reached out to them before, like, hey, can I just buy it separately, because it's kind of annoying seeing this on here every single sale, and they're like, nope, we'll only sell it like this, so bit for us. Alright, next up on the pile, we got a classic in the form of FFT here. It is currently technically on sale, but it's only 20% off. I would wait until this goes down a little bit. It will pretty much inevitably go towards the usual SRPG price of everything winds up being 20 bucks. Anyway, alright, this one's a bit on the cheaper side here, so we've got Together in Battle here. That's going to be down to, well, I guess it's 14. Typically it's 20. Effectively, this is kind of like a mix of SRPG and life sim, where you basically operate entirely off of generics, and those generics are very, very dynamic. So, like, we're talking about a case where you build all of your people custom if you want to. You can just run full randoms, and they will essentially go and interact with each other in all kinds of weird ways. This, again, falls into that pile of kind of weird to describe, but effectively all these goobers are in a gladiatorial arena while also handling a kind of investigation, while also trying to do a coup. And so in the middle of all of this, your generics are kind of running their own little personal dramas in the background. It's one of the few cases I've seen of something dynamically putting all of this stuff together and it actually working. Some of the stories that these people end up putting together are really, really fun. So, yeah, just kind of something to consider. Alright, then we've got Horizons Gate over here for $11.99. So Horizons Gate, Kingsvein, all of those kinds of things. These games are very positive for a reason. They're kind of a mix of SRPG and immersive sim in a sense, where effectively every skill that you pick up can also be used in the world, can be used to interact with things. The amount of interactivity, again, is very unusual. Horizons Gate is also like a sailing sim on top of everything else, like a sailing and colony building sort of shtick, whereas Kingsvein is going to be more like a Metroidvania kind of thing. Effectively, they do this whole thing where they have these sort of like M-Sim SRPGs, and they just sort of slap them into different settings, and it's really cool. I really like what they do with this engine, with these ideas. So yeah, it's one of these ones that, again, you kind of have to try to really appreciate, because it really does do a lot of cool stuff. And yeah, trying to explain why it's cool that you can use a rope on stuff is hard to describe for sure. But yeah, like Kingsvein was easily one of my favorite things in 2024, if not probably my favorite thing in 2024. So yeah, stuff's great. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on here. Alright, we've got the ever-amazing Felseal Arbiter's Mark. This is going to be for $5.79 with the DLC. This is the version you want to be buying because it adds a ton of stuff to this thing. Just like Together in Battle there, this is one that people's only excuse for not trying is typically going to be something along the lines of the art style. Look, I get it, but genuinely it does grow on you over time. The art style is kind of going for a mix of kind of like a Disgaea and FFT in different ways, with the kind of the stiffness of a lot of the stuff there being primarily for the purpose of making sure that these animations can be reused for a ton of different things, because this game's all about its customization. Everything from difficulty to AI to all kinds of loadouts and whatever else, you can custom edit spawns, you can customize every one of your units to a crazy degree. You can basically create your own challenge runs. The amount of builds that you can do is absolutely friggin' ridiculous, to be honest. Not to mention, it's not crazy long. For those that are familiar with SRPGs in general, this is about a Knight of Lotus worth of length, and that is exactly perfect if it's something that you want to run multiple times. So I will say that, yeah, it's for what it is. It shows up, it shows its best hand, and has a tendency to not outstay its welcome, so I really like it for that. Not to mention, if you do feel like going and expanding into the weeds, as it were, there's quite a large amount of side content to the thing, up to and including some pretty large-scale fights, if you'd prefer. Standard scale is typically around FFT, but you do get up to, like, Tactics Ogre-size fights at times, with a lot of interactability between maps and whatnot, up to and including customizing your units for map interactions. You know, having priority turns, being able to climb things without ending their turn, and stuff like that. Winds up being surprisingly good. Anyway, moving on. Similarly, on the we're going to recommend it every single time thing, yeah, XCOM 2, specifically the War of the Chosen version. It's the Ultimate Collection. That's what you want to be getting here. I don't know what it actually costs at this point. Typically, it's like $6 or $7. Basically, if you love dynamic SRPGs, this is going to be your jam. It's functionally speaking like a playable Saturday morning cartoon. The fights are absolutely ridiculous. The narrative barely exists, but it's fine. You're there for the cool fights. So, anyway, that is about that. Moving on. This one's not exactly on the cheapest end, but just kind of one for consideration if you prefer kind of this combination of spacing and cards and whatever else. Starvaders is kind of like a return form from the old Battle Network games and stuff like that. Essentially, what we're looking at here is essentially a mix of like cards and SRPG kind of situation. Technically a roguelike. Yes, I know people get pissy about that at this point, but still, this one's very arcadey. It's a very arcadey kind of card game here. Really fun stuff. Definitely a bit on the upper end of indie here, but still pretty solid entry. Which obviously means that we also have to bring up Time Break Chronicles. Effectively, you want classic Final Fantasy, but it's FTL. That's basically what this is in a nutshell. $10. There you go. Anyway, so this is the first one that's really kind of unexpected because Armored Core 6 never goes on sale, and seemingly this is in order to set up set up the fact that they're releasing Armored Core 3 mobile soon, I guess, which is kind of random, but whatever. Anyway, so yeah, Armored Core 6, really, really great game. Effectively, look, if you're familiar with Armored Core, you know what the hell this is, okay? If you don't know what Armored Core is, imagine... It's the Ace Combat of mech games, okay? You have your mech customization, it's extremely detailed, everything operates off rule of cool logic, and it is metal as all get out, okay? So yeah, as you can tell by somebody essentially using a minigun as a chainsaw in the trailer here. But yeah, no, this game's fantastic. They did end up bringing in a bunch of things from like Sekiro and whatnot, when it came to this particular entry, so there's a bit less of classic Armored Core here, but there's a surprising amount of callbacks, like especially to stuff like Silent Line. It's weird that came up so often. Anyway, yeah, if you wanted to see robots effectively like just doing cool robot stuff all the time, there you go. But yeah, it's 50% off, $30. Game's fantastic, has a really fun multiplayer scene. So yeah, there's that. Basically nothing else really like it, so yeah, kind of earns its $30 there, especially when it comes to production values. It's kind of nutty. Not to mention, please explain to me, somehow this game, with its with all of its craziness, has less battery drain on a Steam Deck than a lot of indies that I go and review, so not really sure how that happened. Anywho, moving on. Okie dokie, this is one that I've been covering recently. Now look, it's not exactly discounted down to something crazy. Basically 50 feels like the price that it probably should have released at, to be honest. Not that it's a bad game. Honestly, this game is freaking just astoundingly good, but, you know, it feels weird to pay 70 bucks for something. 50 bucks feels about right. Anyway, so yeah, effectively, if you wanted to see New Vegas 2 in space, that's kind of what's going on here. Now, I know that seems like hyperbole. You know, Outer Worlds 1 promised the same thing, didn't quite deliver. And the thing is, it's kind of a middle ground between New Vegas in space and Alpha Protocol, if anybody remembers that, being a very, very kind of ImSim kind of experience, but having honestly skill check craziness through with your character and whatever else that basically we haven't seen since something like Fallout 2. Like, genuinely a situation where every conversation feels different because your character's a moron. Feels great. So yeah. Your character is basically totally not working for Space UNATCO. And yeah, really good humor on this thing. Definitely a lot more grounded, I'd say, than the first Outer Worlds was. It's a lot more fun. Not to mention, there's just a lot more stuff going on. Like, I'd say between the two, it's weird how this even runs better than Outer Worlds 1 did. And yeah, I love how they've just kind of applied everything here in a weird sense. Like, just one moment you're going and doing like run and gun bulletstorm type of stuff. Next second you're doing like interdimensional investigations and whatever else, trying to find clues in a mess of other random, you know, assorted information and what have you. And then at the same time, you start appreciating little details like a revolver having better hip fire speed than, for example, if you're aiming down it, because you got to do the whole fan firing thing. And then you find a hat that says that if you do a dramatic stare down with somebody, your revolver gets stronger. Like, again, they lean into all of the absurdity in just the right amount of length there, so appreciate that. Anyway, okay, let's move on. Okay, look, there's like 100 other things I want to cover. But I specifically want to cover one that I've never covered in one of these, I don't think. Saints Row 2. Alright? $1.50. This is going to be the most entertaining $1.50 that you have ever spent. Like, as far as open world games go, I don't think I've ever played anything as entertaining as Saints Row 2. Like, sure, there's a lot of open world things that do a lot of things, a lot of GTA things will have a lot of interesting mechanics, but realistically speaking, yeah, the fact that you can bring your kung fu training into a zombie, like a zombie training simulator, in order to go get yourself a mask, in order to go mess with the population later, or, you know, different weapons giving you different walking stances or what have you. Some of the worst examples that I'm providing here, but honestly, the vibes of this game are very unique. Honestly, I think it's better to not even go into a lot of the details here, because yeah, anything that you ever wanted to do in an open world game works here. It's surprising how the details on like the car damage and stuff like this in this one are better than a lot of even higher end entries. Like those moments when you end up like just barely escaping out of a car fight and you're just plopping out of what's barely left of your car, and then you're looking back and it's just like, man, this is weirdly detailed. Anyway, as far as the mixed reviews, unfortunately, this one was supposed to have a remake. The PC version is not great. There is a mod that fixes it, and the guy behind the mod was actually partially, as I understand it, in charge of the remake. I don't know what kind of weird nonsense happened. Somebody ended up kind of backstabbing that project in some weird way. So from what I understand, that guy had passed away, the project ended up going absolutely nowhere, and yeah. But anyways, you can still play the best version of this game by downloading a mod called Gentlemen of the Row, and yeah, it's really, really freaking good. So yeah. Alright, I gotta get going though. Y'all have yourselves a good one. Hope this was useful, and take care. Bye.